Welcome to the portal to New Sovereign Earth. Join us as we collectively shift realities and shatter paradigms. Brought to you by Tarot ILUMA, Tarot decks and NFTs only on Dero. I'm your host, Kalina Lux. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Well, welcome back, everybody, to episode 7 for the portal. I'm super excited and stoked today to share with you a very unique and rare interview with the anonymous N Initiate, which is the pen name for his upcoming book that we're going to talk about. And why I'm so stoked for this interview is because he is the founder and the artist behind High Strangeness collection. It is an NFA collection on the MS1 standard that is very unknown. It is very esoteric in the world of Dero NFTs. And we are going to talk about all kinds of things today, including NFA standards and what the benefits are to both the creator and the purchaser. We're going to talk about the background and the story of High Strangeness, which is very unique. And we're going to get into some integrations and possibly even do a little walkthrough and a tutorial. And I will put the timestamps down below just in case you are looking specifically for what kinds of things. We're going to talk about the utility case behind his collection, which was personally the thing that drew me in. When I read about it, I was like, wow, it's a no-brainer for me to buy some of his NFTs, which I have collected, hoping to get a couple more. And we're also going to get into some things like natural law, talking about his upcoming book and the potential implications for Dero in the upcoming tourney. And Initiate, welcome to the portal. How's it going? How is everything? How are you feeling over there, Mr. Anonymous?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I've never been interviewed before, so this is something new territory for me. I wouldn't have guessed it when I started making my collection that I'd be getting interviewed, but here we are. Kind of came up when me and you were talking in Discord, and ended up talking about natural law, and you were vibing with me on that, and that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Once I was like having that conversation with you, I recognized right away that your level of understanding far exceeded the normal people in terms of natural law. And I was really blown away at how you were able to articulate really high level concepts in natural law and the esoteric. And I just knew right away, I was like, my people are going to love your work. I already love your work. And it's perfect. So would you tell us a little bit about your collection and just like where did you get the inspiration for High Strangeness? And if you're able to, could you pull up a little screen share of some of your NFTs while you talk about the story?
Sure. Yeah, I'll bring up how about the collection in Discord. This kind of stems from an interest in the paranormal generally. It's kind of the entry level, quote unquote, conspiracy that a lot of people tend to start with, namely UFOs. For me, it was UFOs back in the day. UFOs, and then Bigfoot and aliens, and name the paranormal topic, dogmen, wendigos, whatever, is kind of how it started years ago. But coming from my past mindset, where I used to be very much an atheist with no spiritual beliefs, the physical is all there is, primacy of matter, these kind of ideas. I didn't have that language back then, but looking back, that's what it was. I was looking at these seemingly separate topics from the physical standpoint only. So UFOs were physical craft coming from other physical planets. Bigfoot was some kind of undiscovered ape in the woods, a physical being. But then after years and years of studying it, in that limited mindset, you tend to come to a brick wall where you're not satisfied with the evidence. Where are these beings? If there's an undiscovered ape, how come we can't find the thing? It's something that went by the wayside. I got bored with the topic, and I moved on into other things. 9/11 was a big one in 2007. 9/11 was the big thing that sent me down the path of truth when I learned that the 9/11 event was most certainly a false flag. Without knowing where this was going to go, it ended up going into the spiritual realms, something I never foresaw coming because of my previous mindset. And then I came across natural law 5 or 6 years ago through Mark Passio's work. What on Earth is Happening? His podcast really changed my life. Gave me this final key. He's described it, and I agree that natural law is kind of the key that unlocks all doors. It's kind of the master key. And it was the thing that put all these separate puzzle pieces for me together to make a cohesive picture. And interestingly enough, learning about the occult knowledge brought whole new light to the UFO phenomenon, to Bigfoot, to all these different things. Now, high strangeness was a term coined by John Keel, I believe, was the first guy who said it. He started off also studying UFOs. He also got into the occult, and over time he realized all these seemingly separate things might be from one source, that they're all their origins stem from something else. You can see the NFAs here.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about a few of them? So, for example, that first one right there, that old lady, can you tell us about some of these, and can you show us some of the differences that you've got? I know you've got a couple different categories, and just can you maybe talk about those phenomenon?
The first couple is Baba Yaga, the legend. It's a Polish, Russian tradition or narrative or story. The third one there, this one here, is the Banshee. Witnesses, not just in the modern time, but throughout centuries, interestingly enough, talk about beings in the woods that, in this case, the Banshee is named because the screaming Banshee, right? Screaming in the woods. But to explain all of these things together, you start to make a picture that what people call Bigfoot might not be different than the Banshee itself, because plenty of Bigfoot witnesses have heard screaming, the same kind of thing, right? So depending what mindset you're coming from, if you hear screaming in the woods and your frame of reference in the modern day is Bigfoot, plenty of people will just say it's Bigfoot without actually seeing anything, right? But say 200 years ago, they might have called it the Banshee. These ones here, there's 4 of them in the collection. This scene here is the Bigfoot, or what people call the Bigfoot. Some traditions have different names, including Wendigo. Some native tribes might have called this the Wendigo. Looking into bedroom windows at night. Very, very creepy. I couldn't imagine waking up in the middle of the night to something like this staring in the window, but that's what this is an ode to. Thousands of witnesses who have described this exact scenario. Often it happens after encountering one of these beings in the woods, interestingly enough. Witnesses feel like they're attached. These beings become attached to them. Now, how is this possible if they're physical only beings? John Keel, he was studying UFOs, and then it moved into, if you're familiar with the Mothman prophecies, that's his book written about the Mothman phenomena. What people coined the Mothman from West Virginia in the late 60s. There was this big flap of Mothman sightings, whatever Mothman is. People described it as a humanoid being with big wings and no head, with red eyes in its chest. He was studying that. He was involved in that, and then UFO encounters at the same time. Without getting into too much detail, he came to the understanding that these things might be manifestations of energy, that everything is on the electromagnetic spectrum. And modern science, we know all about that. Our visible light spectrum is the light me and you see, and it's a very narrow band on the larger spectrum. There's radio frequencies, there's ultraviolet, there's infrared, there's all the way up to gamma rays, and that's the electromagnetic spectrum as we know it. John Keel talked about the 8th tower. He coined it the 8th tower, and he called it an ultra-terrestrial spectrum beyond the electromagnetic spectrum. So vibration, if everything's vibration, we're talking about energies that are even beyond gamma rays. Now, why did I bring this up in relation to the occult? When I mentioned I learned about the occult and it added new meaning to these paranormal phenomena. In the occult, in Hermeticism specifically, the first principle is everything is mental, the principle of mentalism, that the universe is mental, meaning consciousness or mental energy is at the basis of everything at its most fundamental level. I came to that separate from reading John Keel's material. I came to that afterwards, and it clicked into place for me. John Keel came to the conclusion that these entities, they are only physical for a time. They come into existence in the 3D plane, and they can leave at any time, but they're not flesh and blood permanent beings. They can become physical and then disappear. And this corroborates thousands of eyewitnesses who say Bigfoot. In the case of Bigfoot can come out of nowhere. It can go back into nowhere. Footprints can be tracked in the snow and they disappear as if the thing just vanished. That these beings might not be separate beings, but all one source, and that source is consciousness. John Keel thought it might be God itself, the highest mind. I tend to disagree with that. If that's the case, it's probably a mind above ours, or we are mind ourselves, but we're incarnate here. A disincarnate mind, not God's mind necessarily, but something between ours and its mind. Yeah. If I'm explaining that well enough, does that make sense?
Yeah. We had a really interesting dialogue regarding this concept when we were texting on Discord. And I was just wondering, can you show us like a picture of the Mothman in specific, or any of these?
Yeah, there's a couple in here. So a lot of these are the portals. Many witnesses up to this day. I listen to podcasts where witnesses who don't know what I just told you, they don't have this understanding of the occult concepts I got into there, but they describe portals, beings in the woods coming out of portals, including Sasquatch. It's quite common for portals to be linked with Sasquatch. They can come and go from them, or the portal is them. The portal could be where the Bigfoot turns into, could be what it originates as. Orbs of light. See if I can find one of those. But that's why these portals, different beings in portals, including shadow people. This one here is kind of an ode to the shadow person people might be familiar with. Black entities with no features that look human. Like this one here, the orb of light. Glowing orbs are often seen, especially in forests, and again with Sasquatch and even UFO. Orbs go hand in hand with these sightings, as if maybe the orb might be that point of consciousness coming from somewhere else, and maybe we can see it on our spectrum, and the orb could be the consciousness itself before manifestation into whatever it chooses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And so it's interesting with me because the portal obviously is the name of this podcast and the name of our Discord server. And furthermore, like, portals have a very unique meaning in my life in particular, because Templis Aquaria, I think we mentioned, Templis is plural for Templar, which means portal. And, Aquaria, portals of air and water. And I'm pretty convinced that there's maybe potentially a percentage of chance reality that I have a portal underneath one of my waterfalls, because people that have dived under there, they're like, dude, you've got a huge hole underneath your waterfall. Have you ever heard of such a portal, like being associated with water?
Actually, not. I haven't with water, no. So it's underwater, or it's above water, but behind
underwater,
the fall?
behind the fall.
I can't say I have with underwater, but why not? There's plenty of UFOs, an unidentified flying object. There's plenty of USOs, unidentified submersible objects that fly into the water. And if portals are related to them, then presumably there could be portals underwater. Sure.
Yeah, that one's one of my favorites right there. I'm gonna get this one someday.
There's an orb of the glowing orb there, yeah, above the girl in the forest, yeah.
Yeah, I really like this one. Interestingly, my mom and dad, when I was young, they took an epic journey from New Zealand to Hawaii. And in this journey, they were sailing, right? They sailed from New Zealand to Hawaii, just them two alone. Yeah. And my mom said that there was a time where, well, a couple different times, but one time in particular, that their instruments and their compasses were spinning and all the electronics wouldn't work. And that she saw like lights, and then this like light shoot up from under the ocean. And my mom doesn't really subscribe to any of this stuff. She's just kind of, keeps to herself. Yeah. But for her story to directly say that, it kind of got my attention. I was like, wait, what? Like, why would she make that up? She said she saw a lot of weird things, especially with whales and stuff and interactions out there at that time. Are there any correlations with portals in the ocean that you know of that could be going like from a upper world to a lower world type of thing?
Very, very well could be, yeah. And magnetism is highly correlated. Magnetic ley lines on the Earth are, people have mapped out magnetic ley lines, and where these lines cross tend to be high UFO hotspots. Many of the UFO hotspots are on ley lines.
Yeah.
There's probably something to do with magnetism and magnetic fields. Maybe those are where portals happen. Maybe that's an entry point there. Lights going in and out of the ocean, that's the US. Plenty of unidentified submersible objects. People call them objects, but doesn't mean they're physical craft going in the water. But people just, through the frame of reference of UFOs, they just assume it's the same thing, right? But going in the water.
Yeah.
But seeing balls of light's the same thing. Yeah. That's the same kind of phenomenon. Yeah. Plenty of it's like your mom, where these witnesses don't even think about this stuff. They don't ask for it, and it just happens to them. They're not looking for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've also heard that if they show up in your life, that they'll tend to like show up in your life again, and even to like the descendants. I mentored under Robert Morningsky. Have you heard of him?
I have not, no.
He's like half Hopi, half Navajo, and he studied a lot of this stuff. And at the time, I was kind of like real naive and just really, really obsessed with any kind of extraterrestrial type of idea. And he told me something very interesting. He's like, look, what you've been described to being, extraterrestrial is in fact just balls of plasma. And that the real extraterrestrials are extra dimensional. So he kind of like led me on a journey to believe or discover that there is no necessarily external outer world, but there's only external outer dimensions. And I know that in some cases, like I have a lot of friends that are very staunch flat earthers, which I don't think we should get into in depth here, but they do introduce a very interesting concept about extraterrestrial lands, like outside of the ice wall, right? And like that, like a nested kind of like land out there, which is very unique. And you would think that there could be portals that separate that in and out, like the comings and goings of that. And if you follow Norb theory, I don't know if you've ever heard of Norb theory. It's one of my favorite like artistic renditions of a flat earth, because it's like concentric circles, kind of like Atlantis. And in the center one, it's like Mount Meru. And one of those theories described that you can't get through them because they're shielded by this really intense plasma type of electromagnetic force field, if you will. And we can see that here. They explain it as like the aurora borealis is that like you cannot pass that. And if you do pass that through a portal, you would be inside like an inner earth, or vice versa, externally outside of that, you would be in an outer earth. So I love all these theories, especially like to make art about them. And they kind of like how you've done your collection here. So what are your thoughts on any of that?
The extraterrestrial, that they come from external worlds, tends to be the entry point. So like going back to when I first got into UFOs, they're from another planet. I've since, from an external world like our world, somewhere out in time and space. I'm now convinced that these are extra dimensional, like you said. If they are energy, if they're manifestations of energy, or if they're beings who know how to come down through dimensions at will, however it's working, or if it is straight consciousness that's literally dreaming these things into our reality, if everything is mind. Extra dimensional is the most likely hypothesis. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of these theories, like you described, are exoteric interpretations. Everything has an exoteric and an esoteric level, a surface level and a deep level. I tend to find that when people focus on physical things like a flat earth wall, and there's the beings come from beyond the wall, it's an exoteric physical interpretation of an esoteric deeper truth. Does that make sense so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of how I view this reality. Always subject to change, of course, but I don't have proof that this world actually exists. And neither does our, quote, leading edge quantum physicists have proof that this world physically, tangibly exists, because when they zoom in on the electrons or the atoms, well, they just get a bunch of space in a fractal ratio repeating over and over, similar to that of a hologram.
Right.
So that really hit me deep when I was studying way back in the day.
Yeah.
And the more I just observe, I really approach life from the mindset of like, what is going on? I have no clue. This is all crazy, right? So I
Right.
just look at it with this curiosity and try to piece together from there, as opposed to like getting attached to one school of thought or the other. It's more, I think you and I, beings like us, we serve truth, which means that if when presented with a new data set, we will automatically upgrade and integrate accordingly, right?
Sure, yeah. If you find stuff that fills in blanks, yeah. So you mentioned my book. I made a first edition, the very first version of it. It's been online. I've given it to people and whatever, but the second edition is what I want to launch on Dero. And the second edition, I kind of add this, well, not kind of, I add this description. Something I find very compelling is when you say to people about truth, people tend to get offended in a way, like how can you talk about knowing truth or whatever. If you think of this duality as time and space, I agree, you'll never know the truth of what's going on in time and space. There's too much possibilities, and to try to pin down a time and a space on anything is very difficult. But throughout all time and space, there's a singularity. There's a where time and space are one, and that's the internal world that we've been referring to. The truth, capital T, can be known. That's where natural law, what natural law is, what it lets us discover. The small t truth can never be known, which is duality, everything in the material plane. But capital T truth can most definitely be discovered. And I think that's what our task is here to do. Does any of that make sense? You probably need drawings really for.
Well, I mean, I've heard a lot of this too, and I've cycled back and forth with that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about and to take into account the plasticity of reality. And truth, even with the capital T, becomes quite slippery when we're looking at it from that perspective, right? There are some truths with a capital T that are obviously like within the natural law systems there. They're like evident. But in terms of like the parameters of this little time space bubble that we exist in,
Yeah.
I do find, just based off my own experiential, qualitative and quantitative experiments, that you can't really lock it down. At any given point, my thoughts are shifting and having a direct effect on this construct, so that I like to call like living and breathing, like the mind of God. So it is a very interesting concept. Before we get too deep into your book, let's just continue on with the next question. And if you want, while we're talking, if you want to just keep like cycling through every one of your NFTs so that it shows on the big screen, that would be amazing. So we can kind of just see it. And every so often, just press the next button so we can kind of get a little tour of your collection while we're talking. My next question for you is, why did you select NFAs? I assume you use the MS1 standard. Why did you choose to use NFAs versus the G45 standard?
Okay, for this, because it gets detailed, I wrote some notes. So we're gonna have to go away from the screen share here, like for these NFAs, if you don't mind, and
No,
we'll go
not at
back to
all.
my camera. So why NFAs? Yeah, this was unexpected. I wasn't looking for them. I made this collection and I made up 365 NFTs because I wanted to launch. I call them NFTs because I was going to launch them on Dero NFTs was my plan. So I made 365 NFTs and I stamped them with my logo. I wanted to launch on dero-nfts.com, but I found it hard to get in contact with the guy running that. It came about where I was talking to Six of Clubs, and he told me about the NFA standard, and that the NFT standard on Dero NFTs is the G45 standard. I didn't even know there was two standards. This is how I learned about the NFA standard. I quickly learned that NFAs, meaning non-fungible assets, are a way to make more complex packages. You can do more with them than simply just have your one NFT image that you can buy and sell. You can make contracts around more complex packages is why I ended up choosing NFAs. Sorry, what was your second question?
Oh yeah, no, that's basically it. Just wanting to know a little bit more about why you selected NFAs and what ultimately led you to that decision, and why you find that they're like favorable in your case.
I also wanted to have a draw. I didn't know how to do that with NFTs. Six of Clubs said he'd help me out with that. That was part of the first step there.
Can you tell us about your draw and how that's going to work?
So the draw, I wanted. I don't have a big name for myself in the Dero community, so I wanted something to help promote my collection, and I came up with the idea of a draw, a substantial draw that no one has done before on Dero or maybe anywhere else that I've seen in crypto. But the draw is for 1,000 Dero, and it will take place when all the NFAs sell. How I didn't really consider how long that might take. I thought the draw would sell itself, and I think it will. The draw will take place, and Six of Clubs will run a random number generator to pick the winning number, which will be published on chain. Each NFA comes with minimum one draw entry. So the lowest price NFAs, the 512 by 512 resolution NFAs, come with one draw entry each. So, for example, if NFA number 40 is one of those NFAs, you would have ticket number 40 to the draw. Now, there's about 100. There's 184 NFAs with one entry each, and then there's 178, I believe it is, NFAs with two entries each. They're the next tier up. They are the 768 by 768 resolution NFAs, and they come with two draw entries. So the first draw entry is, again, the same as the NFA number. So if NFA number 100 comes with two entries, you would get entry number 100, and then a number from 366 to 554 is just how it worked out. And then one of those numbers will be your second number. All these numbers are in my draw details on GitHub or on Discord under High Strangeness, under the appropriate thread on my channel, the draw details thread. And then the last three NFAs, which are sold, the last three are sold, but they came with four entries, and 6 entries. The very last one came with 6 entries. So all that works out to 554 draw entry numbers. So there's a 1 in 554 chance to win. And if you get an entry or an NFA with 2 entries, you would have 2 out of 554. So 1 in 277 chance. So the odds are pretty good for that substantial 1,000 Dero draw, which is going to be worth something in the next bull market, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to giving that to someone for sure. And it'll be a big deal for someone who wins that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know
totally.
it's a bit complicated hearing me talk about the details. It's easier to read, and all those details are on Discord under my High Strangeness channel. And if you want, you can go to GitHub and read the official text document. And it shows every NFA number with all the corresponding ticket entry numbers.
So one of the things that I really stood out about your collection was its integrations with dreams. I think I read it wrong at first. I read that every one of them had a certain package or whatever. And I was just like, okay, let me check it out. And then when I saw your collection at first, I really didn't understand the story behind it. So I didn't know what I was really looking at. But the more and more we talked, and I was like, oh, okay, I can see your esoteric envelopment of this consciousness with what you're trying to portray here.
Yeah.
And I could see how it was going to tie in with your book. And I really liked the cards that you did. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does every one of your NFAs come with a card deck?
Yes.
That is amazing.
I wanted to give every NFA purchaser something than just the original image. Yeah, every NFA comes with the 52 playing card deck that can be used on Dreams and any future dApps that works with. Yeah,
it came with that, not just the backs, but also the fronts, which I will add. That was a super big perk. And for me, because I wanted to go play poker. I didn't like the basic looking cards because everybody gets those. And, with me, I want everything to be like pretty and themed.
right.
And even if I'm the only one that can see them, because I think that I'm not sure if it's like that on all of Dreams, but I was really enjoying the card packs. I think how you did them was really nice. And maybe in post, I'll throw up one of your cards. They're really nicely done. And they actually inspired me. I want to go finish out ILUMA's card decks because of yours. Not only did it come with the card deck, but the ones like in the category that I bought, they came with themes. And so I got I don't know, 6 themes or something that could be put in. And I've had a lot of fun cycling through the avatar with the theme and connecting it and being like, this one matches this one, and, playing with it like that. So
Right.
I thought that was cool. How
Yeah,
many?
I think you would have got eight themes with yours, I believe.
8, maybe it was 8.
Yeah.
How many?
Sorry, go ahead.
How many of your packages, I'm sorry, how many of your NFTs come with the themes, and are there any left in that category?
No, all the themes, only the last 3, all the 8th Tower NFAs, which you got one of them. All those last 3 NFAs, which are the 8th Tower ones. That's what John Keel coined. That's what he postulated as the ultra terrestrial consciousness that is manifesting these entities in our physical time space. The 8th Tower is what he called it. Yeah, those 3 came with the themes. So number 363 came with 4 themes, 364 with 8 themes, and 365 with 12 themes. Those are sold though, yeah.
Yeah, I got 364, which I'm very happy about. You mentioned that 6 was making a random generator. In 6's style, I'm assuming that's on chain.
He's going to post the results on chain. Yeah. So when the draw happens, I don't know exactly how that works, if it can be on Discord and Telegram at the same time, but hopefully it can be on both. But otherwise, it'll be announced on one or the other, and it'll be done by 6 of Clubs. Yeah, one of the large community members in Dero. Yeah, he's going to run that.
Yeah, that's amazing. We know that with your collection, that you've got those 3 things that come with it, and the giveaway. Also, you mentioned that you're doing a special discount for ILUMA holders. So if you're an ILUMA holder, all you have to do is display your NFT, or if I know you personally, I can verify with Mr. Initiate here, and we can get you that discount. So can you just tell us again what ILUMA holders get from your collection?
Yeah, so for the last almost week now, I think, I offered the ILUMA holders a discount on the 2 tiers of NFAs that are left, because as I said, the last 3 are sold. So now there's just the 2 NFAs, the tier 1 and tier 2. So the 1 entry and 2 entry to the draw NFAs. The original price was 12 Dero and 16 Dero respectively. I've lowered that to 9 Dero and 14 Dero respectively to ILUMA holders, and I'll extend that another week from today, now that you're bringing it up. Sure.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
So and if anyone, so right now there's some NFAs on Dreams. If an ILUMA holder was to buy one, they can get in contact with me and I could refund them, because right now they're up for the full price of 12 and 16 Dero, the ones that are up there.
Okay.
If an ILUMA holder buys one, they can get in contact with me on Discord and I'll refund them whatever the difference is. Yeah.
And just so you know, this video probably won't come out for like another week, because I'll probably have to edit it quite heavily. Yep. And I am super slammed this upcoming week. So we'll be lucky if it gets out in the next week.
Okay. So yeah, we'll just extend it. Whenever it comes out, we'll just count that as the start of the week, and it's fun.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about your book, and like I mentioned before, I don't think I mentioned it in this video, but I mentioned it in the description. When I read little pieces of his book, and when I read an initiate's writing, I recognized right away the mastery of somebody and I know you don't want to call yourself a master, and you don't have to. I will. So I recognize the mastery behind the comprehension levels within natural law, and that was something that was super, super unique to me. I find in the Dero community, we kind of gravitate, people that are interested in natural law, we kind of tend to gravitate towards Dero community just simply based off of what it stands for. And you mentioned that Dero is an extension of natural law, and I want to get into that after this next question.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about your upcoming book and what you plan to do with it? Will it also be on the MS1 standard for NFAs?
Yeah, I'm working out. I think I know how to do it now. But yeah, I'm planning to launch it as an NFA. Yeah. So it'll be similar to how I launched the similar kind of steps as how I launched High Strangeness, but I might even make it where it's by order. So if you want a book, you personally request one, and I make up an NFA just for you. So it'll be really custom like that. Or I release like a limited run of 300 second edition first prints of it, and I'll put out 300 or something, and then once they sell, they're sold, and I might do another run later. I'm not going to limit myself to just one run necessarily, but I haven't quite figured that out. I might make it where people can contact me directly, and then the amount that sell is exactly the amount of orders that came in, which might be cool.
Yeah, it's really cool because, like, the more I'm learning about Artificer and the MS1 NFA standard, I'm really learning, like, you can do a lot of really cool things within that. Like, I was chatting with the Civilware team earlier, and they even said that it's optional. So with the NFAs, you can customize it. So the creator and the buyer, the seller and the buyer can negotiate directly. You can do everything within that smart contract. With the other standards available on Dero for Dero NFTs, those might need multiple different smart contracts to call the function of auction or sell or buy or whatever. Whereas within Artificer, it was really elegantly built within. And I do know that at one point in an upcoming Ngram update, that the NFAs are going to be directly associated with Ngram in their own decentralized application that the foundation and Civilware team is making. That'll be really cool. So the one of the conveniences about the NFA standard is that it allows everything to be done within that smart contract itself, which means that you can really customize it. So if you're a creator, and let's say you want to do a certain NFA collection that's specific for a fundraiser, you can actually code that into the smart contract so that it goes to your specific charity. Or you have the option to give a donation to the creators of the MS1 standard, the NFA Artificer standard, which is Civilware team, Dank and Nalbert, or not. Like, you can literally choose to donate to them. You can also collect royalties. You can also do what's called soulbound. Now, soulbound is really cool. And I've thought about this implications at extent, because, for example, if I wanted to create a collection that really implied like a security, right? So you can do what's called soulbound. If you know that person's wallet that it's associated with, you can transfer an NFA directly to their wallet, and they can never transfer it. It's soulbound. It's dunsies. Like, that's theirs. And this really works well if you know that you need to have a certain specific group of vetted people, and they're not just selling it off, right? Like, so if, like, let's say, for example, I wanted to create a club of, I'm always going back to this, of purebloods, and I wanted to verify that none of these with zombie consciousness are entering my little sphere. I could vet them personally and then give them a soulbound NFT, or NFA in this case, and which then write a smart contract that interacts with that only allows that certain type of membership. So I am very pleased to learn more and more about Artificer and the MS1 NFA standards, because I feel like ILUMA in the future, we're going to have some nice crossovers and implications to blend more within those systems and have some more functionality and integration more with decentralized applications like Dreams and like other ones that are upcoming in the works. Now,
Right.
was that part of your vision and inspiration for also choosing the NFA standard?
Yeah. So interesting about Soulbound. I didn't know that was a thing that's coming. But yeah, that's interesting. It is my understanding that Artificer, the goal is to have Artificer inbuilt into Ngram as one avenue. I'm guessing you can use Artificer. You'll be able to use Artificer through other avenues, I would guess, but through Ngram anyway. Yeah, that's going to be exciting. Yeah, so I didn't know this before I learned about NFAs, but yeah, after I learned, it made sense. NFAs is where things are going. Like you said, they allow more flexibility. They give the artist more control. I've heard it described that the NFA is like an NFT and dero-nfts.com in one package. The NFA is like the NFT and Dero NFTs. It's like the art and the art marketplace in one is what it offers the artist, which gives full control, like you were saying. You can set your royalty on the NFA to whatever you want. 5% on dero-nfts.com is their standard. It's a standard so far, I think, in the NFA world. But with an NFA, the 5% royalty goes to the artist instead of to others. Very interesting what that offers. And to me, it's a no-brainer. Right now, it's very labor intensive to launch an NFA collection, because the tools are still coming to make it automated and streamlined, which is what Artificer is, in my understanding, is going to offer, where anyone can go into Ngram and work with an NFA collection, and on the back end is happening all the things that I grinded through to launch my collection. I did it the long way because those tools aren't available quite yet. So yeah, that's coming, and I think it's no question that it's going to be the thing that replaces the NFT standard.
Yeah, there's lots of...
Does that answer your question, Kalina?
Yeah, I think that does. It answers it quite well. Yeah, there's lots of implications and potentialities to be used within the NFA world. And I personally am very interested in learning how to integrate and bridge both standards, because obviously ILUMA is a G45, which I was very pleased with making that. I think the Dero NFTs platform is a very nice platform, very user-friendly, whereas the NFAs are a little challenging. And I'm hoping that in this video today, we can kind of shed some light to help people, because dream tables is so fun. I don't know if you were there that night, but maybe like a couple weeks ago, a lot of us got on Dreams and we all played poker, and just for Dreams, like a tiny little fraction. So it's like, we're not really losing anything. It's just dust, right?
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And a lot of people had your avatars up there because they're integrated with Dreams. And it got me thinking, like the wheels spinning, about how ILUMA can also help support our holders in having cool, cute things like card decks and backgrounds. So that's definitely one of my goals. And I thought it was just so good for morale. Like, it was directly after that one incident that happened that kind of had us divided there for a hot minute, and everybody was scared.
Right.
And then we all got together and played poker, and it just felt really good. So I'm hoping that we can bring awareness to helping people have a little bit more fun, especially with dream tables, and especially integrating their cool, avatars like in yours. Would you be willing to give us a little walkthrough of how Dreams looks, and how you can check out your collection on Dreams, and how to do that?
Yeah, we can.
You can set your camera up, and I'm going to let my cat out because he's about to destroy things.
Okay.
Okay. Looks like he's got his setup here. So can you just give us a little bit of an overview on what you're about to do?
Yeah. So we're going to have to assume that people know how to make a CLI wallet and register it, which would be the first step. Download the CLI software, open it up. I think you pick option one.
I'll link my tutorial in the bottom in case anybody doesn't know how to open up a CLI wallet. Link is down in the description below.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so with your wallet created, I'm gonna show you the command required, the RPC command and the username password set that you need to use in Dreams to connect the two. It's pretty easy once you know the command. So This is in Linux Mint. I'm using Linux here. So here's my Dero folder, the Dero folder. Take your CLI file, drop it in here. Now, I don't have a local node on this machine. It's on my other machine, but I'm going to connect to the remote node, to a remote node. So -- remote. Now, the command you need to set an RPC connection, server connection with username and password is simply -- rpc - server space -- rpc - login equals. The format is user:\pass. So I'm going to fill in my username. We'll call it high S : that's the username, and then my password will be test, and then we'll launch the wallet.
And just so you guys know, this works with any decentralized application in the Dero ecosystem, this exact thing. If you want to use your CLI wallet with Dero NFTs or whatever, you're going to need that little code, and I will put it in the description below.
Right on, yeah. Okay, so you can see by the block height there, it's connected to the remote node at the current 1.87 million block height there. I'm going to open my wallet I previously made. I think it was HS test. The password. Now it's connecting. Now the block heights match. The wallet's connected. I sent 0.1 Dero to the wallet just to show that it's the wallet that's going to connect to Dreams here. So now I'm going to open up Dreams, which I downloaded from dreamtables.net, I think is the URL. You can find that. Just Google search Dream Tables or go to my Discord channel. You'll find it.
I'll link it below. No worries. I'll link it below.
Okay. We'll launch Dreams here. And then from the drop down, I just know that the remote node is this 8517. The RPC, there's only one option. It's the 103, which is on your wallet side, and then username and password. You literally just put in this username and password that you set. Sorry, right up here. This is why we put in this here, the high S test. So same format. I'll show the password here so you can see it. So high S : test. This is how it knows to connect to that wallet because you set that. And there you go, wallet's connected. My Dero balance is 0.1 there. If this was my wallet that I minted my NFAs with, under the asset tab, you would see them all listed here. So Dreams connects the smart contract. It can pick up based on the wallet address all the assets that the wallet owns. This test wallet doesn't own any, so there's nothing there. But once you're connected, you can go to the market tab and then go to buy now. It might have to load up here. We might have to wait for the genome. It's checking for assets here.
Is that how you say it? Genome, or is it Nomen? I don't know.
No, you're right. It's Nomen.
Is it Nomen? Okay.
Yeah.
I've been saying it that way the whole time. I guess that it's Nomen now.
Yeah. There they are. So once you wait for the genomen to sync up there, there we go. Under market here, buy now. Here's the current things offered for sale in the market. If there's any auctions, they would populate here. There's no current auctions. So right now, for High Strangeness, there's 7 listed. So it's simply you would go here and click the buy button. There's the details about it. This is a 12 Dero one. This one's 12 Dero, 12. There's one of these is 16. There's a 16. Yeah, these are just the current ones I chose to list. They do cost Dero to list, and they last for 7 days before the sale ends. So if they're not sold after 7 days, I got to take them down. So my strategy, and this strategy would change for each artist, each NFA owner. Doesn't matter how you do it. I could list the whole collection here, but after 7 days, I'm going to have to take it down and redo it. That's just the way it is on Dreams. So my strategy is I post a few Otherwise, get in contact with me on Discord. And then you can go through the collection on Discord. There's a thread there that you, as we showed earlier, as I showed, I was scrolling through it. You can look at them all. And you can just message me if you want one. And I can either send it to you directly or post it on Dreams here. Now that I've shown you how to use Dreams, it's probably easiest just to go on Dreams and do exactly this. And then you would see it pop up, the one you asked me for. Let's say you asked for 200. You would see High Strangeness 200 pop up in this list. You would just go down here to buy, and then you could buy it.
And you can also send these like peer-to-peer, right? Like, because
Yes.
the NFA standards don't require this, right? They don't require some type of third-party software or decentralized application to even be sold, which is kind of cool. I think that that's also similar with the G45 standards. I don't know how to do it on either of them yet, but it's really cool because when you look at the first collection of NFTs or NFAs in Dero, and the whole entire Dero ecosystem, I believe it was Six's collection and Asylum's collection, and they were here. And I believe the next one was Death by Cupcake, which is a hand-drawn, super, super limited edition. I think there's only 6 of hers.
10,
and
10 I think, yeah.
10, maybe 10 of hers. Yeah, so it's really, really cool because this is such a different feel to the NFA NFT world. And I really like it because it emphasizes the fact that we have 2 platforms for buying and selling and trading NFTs and NFAs on Dero. It really makes me feel like the decentralization theme and community vibe is really growing, right? Like that, right? So I'm stoked that you guys are doing the hard work. And more than that, it forces me, because I want to buy your collection, it forces me to go and learn how to do these things, which obviously helps me get my skill in my CLI wallet and on Dream Tables. And it helps me learn how to become more independent and sovereign in my own right, because should shift hit the fan, we know that we can still communicate through the CLI wallet, and we can still have ways in our marketplaces like Dreams, which is separate from the internet. And really quick, I just want to highlight that 6 of Clubs put Tarot ILUMA into Dream Tables. So he's got Whole Dero, which is what we were playing the other day, Baccarat, which I don't know anything about, Predictions, which I think is like predicting like price action, like maybe betting, or I'm not sure how that goes. And he's got sports predictions. So you can bet on your teams, and if you win, you win. And then of course there's Tarot ILUMA. Could you click on Tarot ILUMA? Could you do, I don't think you have enough for a poll right now, but of course you guys know that this is my baby. And if you go to reading real quick, you can like scroll. Will you scroll down on this, the whole thing, before you go to reading?
To this screen here.
If you click on ILUMA.
Yeah.
And then scroll all the way down kind of slowly.
It's running slow. This computer is running slow or something. Normally it's a lot smoother than this, but that's all right. Sorry, I scrolled down too far.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So you can read the intro to the Quarant's Companion, which is basically a little book that I wrote in conjunction with ILUMA. And it'll kind of tell you the nature of what I was inspired to do with it, and a couple of spreads to use so that you can use them in your next one. So if you click on reading now.
Yeah, you got the, like, you can do 3-card draw and draw. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a 1-card draw or a 3-card draw, and it'll give you like a little pop-up of the description and the meaning. And yeah, I just thought that this was so cool because Six and I are both like card people. Like, he loves cards, I love cards. We come from different backgrounds of loving cards. But did you guys know that the playing deck actually comes from the tarot? The 52 card playing deck is the minor arcana minus just one set of cards, like one category of cards in the Royal Arcanum. So it's very, very exciting, and it kind of just like flows together. And I love what Six is doing here, because I feel like Dream Tables really does a lot for building community and opening up new opportunities and avenues. So my gratitude to you, Six of Clubs, for all the work that you've been doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. This looks pretty slick. And you can see there's an opportunity, lots of, the sky's the limit of what you could put in here and what you could connect. Here's the poker table. So any custom cards you get will show up here. Of course, I don't have any on this wallet, so unfortunately I can't show you my cards even, because my wallet's on my other computer, my main wallet. But you would see my cards here, or any other, or Six's cards or Asylum's cards. You would literally see them here. And I believe in poker games, I was told, in poker games, opponents can see other cards maybe, or am I wrong on that?
I don't know. We'll have to check with Six on that. I'm not sure. Maybe I think you have to share your table. So if you run a table, like, I think, Six, obviously, Asylum, Cake Master, Nelbert, a few others have their own tables on there. And if you own certain assets, then you can actually display that and you can share your cards with everybody. And I know that some of these cards, like Asylum and Sixes, they come with access to the poker bot. So you can have this thing. I mean, one time I was playing Asylum, or I thought I was playing Asylum. And next thing you know, he's like, sorry, I'm doing a run to, this store. And I was like, but I'm playing you on Dream Tables. He's like, no, you're playing my bot. It's like, dang, here I was thinking that I was like,
right. Yeah. I've heard about this bot, the plain bot. I don't know much about it, but yeah, you can use the bot with your custom cards for sure.
I mean, it's incredible that Six built that. Like, that is so ahead of the game, like it's ahead of the curve that he did a poker bot. And for me, it's great because I don't know how to play at all, like at all. I think they all let me win my first time because I was like cleaning house, and I was almost feeling guilty that I was doing so good. Luckily, it was just dreams, but I think they let me win because my second time I played, I needed that bot. Let me tell you.
Right. And yeah, and just to be clear, when Kalina says dreams, there's a dreams token in dreams, with a fixed conversion rate of 1 dero equals 333 dreams. And so these dream tables, you're playing for dreams tokens, but you can convert them to dero at the conversion ratio of 331 dreams to 1 dero, in case anyone's wondering what dreams are.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a little look at how, I think we're good on dreams. Yeah. Did we cover everything we needed? Did you want to say anything else about dreams?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
We covered how to get in there, and it should be easy now to connect to it and look around. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think we're good on dreams. Yeah. Okay.
So let's shift gears for a moment, and I would really like to touch upon something that you said in our conversation previous to this one, where you said that dero was a natural extension or expression of natural law. And because I really look up to you in the world of natural law based off of your previous work and your studies, what would you say, how would you explain that to us for the layperson who really doesn't have an idea about natural law? Could you maybe give us an intro in a very simple term, what natural law even is?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll try to make it as it's really, interestingly enough, it actually is very simple. It's all the programming that we go through systems of quote unquote authority that we all grow up in, including government, school, various churches, and all these things. It's really getting through that programming that makes it challenging. But in simple terms, there's laws in this universe, unseen and seen laws. Natural law is referring to the unseen law of behavioral consequence. So natural law is simply, or God's law, or law of creation. There's different names for it. But when we're talking about natural law, we're just talking about the unseen laws of behavioral consequence, meaning natural law governs the consequences of the actions of beings who have the capacity to know the difference between right and wrong. So this is why humans are held to a higher standard than, say, than the lower animals in the animal kingdom is because we have spiritual free will, capital F, capital W, free will, meaning we make our decisions from moment to moment, but as a human, we can also take into account, is what I'm doing right or is what I'm doing wrong, and based our actions all around that. And so that leads to the next important point. What is a right then? What is a right, and therefore what is a wrong? So a right is very simple. It's simply that which does not cause harm to another being, another sentient being. What is a wrong? A wrong is anything that causes harm to another sentient being. So the key being harm. So what is harm? Harm is anything that takes from another that which is not yours to take. In other words, theft or stealing. And you don't need to believe me on this. You can sit with yourself and prove it in your own surroundings, in your own life. All wrongs are a form of theft, the taking of something that does not belong to you. I've heard it described as the true 7 deadly sins. Many religions try to keep sins in the realm of the mind only, that it's just what you think is the sin. So lust, for example, is a sin. Lust doesn't harm anyone. I do agree that lust can lead to harm if you let it take you over, and then you do actual harm through say rape or something like that. A wrong is something that harms another, that most grievous of which is murder. Murder is the taking of life that does not belong to you. Rape is the stealing of someone's sexuality that does not belong to you. Willful lying is the stealing of information from someone that they need to make an informed decision that you knowingly withheld or withhold. Here's a key one for the whole last 3 years around this supposed pandemic is coercion. Now, coercion, why is it a wrong? Because it steals the free will of another being. It steals the free will decision-making capability of another being. This is the thing that identifies the whole, what I call plandemic of the last 3 years. This is what identifies the tyranny of that event. Isn't whether masks work or not, or the vaccines bad or works or not. I agree that neither of those work, but that's not the important point. The identifying factor that makes the whole scenario wrong is the coercion. The whole thing was run on coercion. So that's an important one, and it's kind of the most, coercion's the one you can see easily in all tyrannies of all times past. Trespass, the stealing of someone's security in their living quarters. Stealing of property, obviously stealing of physical things that do not belong to you, and assault, stealing bodily security from someone that's not yours to take. Now, those are your rights. Sorry, those are wrongs if you engage in them. Now, if someone comes, this is important, and the thing that many people hang up on is they don't know the difference between violence and self-defense. So everything I just described, all wrongs, are a form of violence. Violence is the initiation of force causing those harms. Now, if someone comes and breaks into your house, so they're trespassing, they might be armed, so that they could be coming to take your life. They have now infringed on your rights, and you have the right to self-defense. So if in self-defense you shot the intruder, it's not murder, it's just killing. Killing and murder are not the same thing, and this is hard for many people through conditioning to accept. But it's an important distinction. If you kill someone in self-defense, you've not murdered them and you have not committed a wrong, and that's very controversial for many people. But nevertheless, it's true. So that self-defense is the masculine principle, and non-aggression principle is the feminine, and together is that central path of do no harm but take no shit, so to speak. So knowing rights means you do not infringe on others' rights, but if someone infringes on your rights, you have the right to self-defense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I recently went through like a long firearm training course. And in that, I learned that here in Puerto Rico, if somebody comes onto your land and they are attacking you, you won't be held for murder if they come into your land, if they break into your home, and you use self-defense. And they gave us like the clear criteria for what to check for to make sure that you're in the right. And I recently had the pleasure, like a couple of days ago, of speaking with a previous ex-military arms teacher, and he reiterated those tips as well. I can't remember them, so like I probably won't be utilizing that right or that protection method anytime soon. But it is interesting to see that even the people who call themselves governments recognize this as a natural law, and they give it to us, like, quote, give it to us, right? Because they can't really give it to us. But so
yeah, good. That's an important point. Yeah, they don't really give it to us, and in fact, it's redundant. When they say we're allowed through their legal systems, it's actually just redundant of a right you already have. Yeah, and many
right,
governments, as time progresses and governments get more tyrannical as they do, as soon as a government is formed, its end goal is ultimate tyranny. That's just how it works, because people don't want to relinquish that power. The trend is towards not allowing legally what you just said. Many countries do not allow you to defend yourself, so that's the trend, is going towards that direction.
right.
If a country quote unquote lets you do that, it's just redundant. You have the right, even in country. I'm talking natural right. I'm not talking about whether the state won't accost you if you do it, but even in countries where you're not allowed to defend yourself legally, you do have the natural right. Doesn't mean the state won't come after you, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So you mentioned that dero is a natural expression or extension of natural law, that naturally you would end up in dero. And privacy is something that is very dear to all of us in dero. And it's really changed my mindset. A year ago, before I was really involved with dero, I didn't know the severity of having my personal information and data out there. And even with these podcasts, like my face is here, right? So there's an element of publicity that is still in play here that I do sometimes lose sleep over, and not because I think that some governmental agency is going to come after me because I haven't done anything to cause that, but just out of learning more and more of the sacredness of privacy. How does privacy fit into natural law and the right to privacy?
Because it's extremely simple. Remember, I just described that rights are anything that do not harm another. Well, having privacy does not harm another in and of itself. There's no harm done to another, so it's your right. Just like non-privacy is your right also. But the problem is if you have a third party coercing you to use non-private platforms, right? There's the issue, and that's the trend, as we all know. All these major platforms and governments around the world are trying to cut off privacy options because, for obvious reasons, because they want to control you and they want to surveil you and all this. So privacy is the natural outcome when you learn about natural law. Because it's your right, and especially in times of obvious escalating tyranny, it's inevitable that a person's gonna end up in privacy, right? So Dero is one of those projects. Monero, Pirate Chain, these projects offer that privacy. I tend to call these real cryptos in the crypto sphere. There's 20,000 cryptos or whatever. 99.99% of them are completely surveillable, trackable, and are probably being done so now by the state. They're tracking these things. I call those the mainstream crypto sphere. Dero, Monero, Pirate Chain, and these ones, there's a few others, would be the real crypto, as I call it, and they're becoming. Crypto seems to be going into a branch where there's going to be the mainstream controllable, quote unquote, crypto, and then the dark net, black market, freedom oriented, privacy, real crypto. What crypto was always supposed to be, right? When I got into crypto, before I knew they were trackable, such as Bitcoin, I was in there because it was a big middle finger to the system, because I thought I couldn't be monitored. I wasn't surveilled, and nor did they have any business doing that. and there was not supposed to be any permission from third parties. Now most of crypto is looking to regulators and asking for permission to do this and that. And that's not what crypto was supposed to be about. And we need to move back to that. And Dero being the first that I know of private smart contract option, like an Ethereum, but you have privacy. It seems to me like it's going to be a major player, a major important part of that real crypto sphere. So that's how I even came across Dero, is I know about smart contracts and smart contract projects, and Dero being private was the reason I came across it. But yeah, because privacy is your right. If tyranny escalates, a free human's going to want to exercise that right, and so something like Dero is inevitable.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And interestingly, I would actually go a step further, because Dero is the only crypto that is encrypted, and crypto comes from encryption. So all the others, I just want to reiterate this, not that I don't love Monero and Pirate Chain. They're going to be tools, right? But we need to diversify, and we need to really understand that Dero is encrypted. It's the only one of its kind that uses encryption, homomorphic encryption. Everybody else might use privacy protocols, but they're written in plain text versus ciphertext. And that really is like why at my core, I'm a Dero maxi. And for the foreseeable future, I will be, because it's not important to me to get rich. It's important to me to preserve the sacred privacy. And the more that I've learned the culture and the mindset around Dero, the more I have really grown to love privacy. And I wish that in the past that I had not had social media accounts. I wish that I was more simply in nature, because I can see that the involvement with all of these electronics has taken a direct hit on my health and on my spiritual health and on my spiritual practices. And having the privacy from these things really allows me to reconnect with nature and the divine in ways that I hadn't gotten to. So I think that you spelt it out extremely clearly. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
I
no
want
problem.
to ask you, where do you see yourself going from here? Obviously, we know that High Strangeness is a really cool project, and we're looking forward to the 1000 Dero draw, which is ridiculous, by the way. That's ridiculous that you're going to do that. Like, oh my God, that's so much Dero. What kind of future projects and integrations are you looking towards in the future, potentially on your plate? And will current NFA holders get some kind of priority with your book launch and whatnot?
Yeah, so the next project on Dero, and High Strangeness just came about as just an interest to see if I could do it. And now I'm learning so much more. I'm thrust into the deep end, which I didn't know was going to happen. It's awesome. I'm even learning about what you're talking about, Dero. It's encryption and stuff. I'm still learning about what that means exactly. So my next project, I want to launch that book on Dero, which would be a first. Now I better really get on it before someone else does it, right?
I think you're good on that. I think that you're probably definitely going to be the first. Somebody would have to write a book or have a book prepared and then learn all the things that you learned. Like it's a steep learning curve, but guaranteed you'll probably be the first.
Yeah. And it'll be fitting. It'll be fitting that it's around natural law on something like Dero. It'll be a good fit. That's my real interest is about natural law. Like that's what I'm really interested in, is these spiritual concepts, why the world's enslaved versus how could it be free. So my book would be the next project I want to launch. And I didn't even think about integrating it with High Strangeness, but yeah, I'm going to offer it. My book, I'm going to offer it to all High Strangeness holders. I just came up with that now based on what you were saying there. I think, that's a good idea.
That's super cool. Well, yeah. Excellent. That means,
to be honest, I hadn't thought of it, to be honest, but it makes sense. Sure. Yeah. I like it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of cool things. And so a couple of my last questions would be, if people are interested in learning more about NFAs and your process and how you created your collection, are you available for people to reach out to learn more? And maybe if somebody is interested in launching a collection as an NFA versus an NFT, would you be willing to give people services or
Absolutely.
tutoring?
Yeah, absolutely. I could help them out. They'll have to get in contact with me on Discord. Uh, through my name's High Strangeness NFAs on Discord. The Dero community server. I'm brand new to Discord, so I don't know exactly the language, but the Dero community server, and I'm a channel in there, High Strangeness. You can find me in there. You can DM me and ask, and I will help you out. Sure, yeah.
And he's also on the portal, and he has a channel in there called High Strangeness. You're welcome to tag him in there. And obviously the link for my Discord server is in the description below. Feel free to join. And it's interesting, actually. I just thinking about this. Salamander, he has an NFT collection called Birds. And part of their utility is he tutors people in exchange. Like if they buy a certain NFT, he offers them a certain amount of tutoring. So that's just maybe potentially a utility you can attach to your NFAs as part of an agreement too. Like, hey, I will help you and coach you in NFAs with what I know. And this tier corresponds to this many tutoring hours. I don't know if that's something you eventually want to
Yeah,
do and incorporate, but just an
that's
idea.
yeah, interesting. It goes on and on. Eh? I hadn't even thought about these things literally till you're speaking of them, and they make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really right now like super passionate about discovering ways that our community members and our creators as NFT creators and NFA creators can reward our holders. They're the people that have invested into these ideas. And so it's like they're our clients, and I feel extreme amount of fiduciary to ILUMA holders. And I'm constantly like strategizing little ways to be like, okay, how can we reward ILUMA holders? I don't have all the answers yet, but I think that one of the ideas that I'm really working on right now, in other NFT platforms and ecosystems, there's this idea of competition, and all the NFT collections are fighting each other. While in Dero, we have such a united mission around privacy and the preservation of human rights that I feel that we could make our NFT collections and our NFT NFA platforms very attractive to outsiders simply by teaming up together and working as a team and not in competition, but cooperation. So I've opened up a little channel in my Discord portal that is specifically for artists and creators or NFT and NFA aficionados to come and collaborate and start strategizing and wrapping their minds around what kinds of utilities people want to see and what kinds of utilities can we creatively bring from the ethers and create and give back to our communities. So yeah, I'm super duper excited about learning about utilities and use cases and the possible integrations and shares between dreams and Dero NFTs and NFAs, and how we can all correlate to be like an awesome team that works together for the benefit of Dero. So, because that's kind of what we are. Rafael Laverde said this to me early on in the sphere, like early in the game. He was like, look, you work for Dero now. Congratulations. Like you
Right.
all work for Dero. And I was like, whoa, we do work for Dero, because like Dero works for us. Like Dero is the thing that's going to preserve our rights, especially every day. I feel like we're seeing something new in social media about the system and the CBDCs and this encroaching system that's coming full force to take away our rights. And while in one hand I feel very super protected because we have Dero, that doesn't mean that we get to go back to sleep. It's time for those of us that are NFT and NFA creators to really utilize what we have fundraised with our funds to build and feed back in that ecosystem that is going to protect our rights and help to make it more accessible to people that might have no clue of how to do these things. So definitely, if you guys are interested in learning about NFAs and how to customize those with a decentralized application that you've got on your mind, contact, Six of Clubs, contact High Strangeness, just get involved. And I'm willing to help out as much as I know as well too. And I think that we can all kind of come up together and utilizing this mindset of cooperation for the purpose of protecting our rights. I think it just brings a whole new element of value that we haven't previously seen in other NFT marketplaces.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'm willing to help out people if they want to message me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I will link your shop collection and your your Discord address. I will link all your contact information in the bottom below. So you guys feel free to reach out. Feel free to find him on Discord, either the Dero community or the Portal server. And thank you so much, Mr. Initiate, for spending this last hour and a half with us.
No problem. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you wanting to interview me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely looking forward to your book. So definitely we'll have you back on to talk more in depth about your book when that launches.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Right on.